This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. We begin today with the House Judiciary Committee will vote tomorrow to authorize subpoenas to obtain the full and complete Mueller report, along with all evidence gathered during the Russia-Trump investigation. Wednesday, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler and House Democrats plan to issue those subpoenas after setting today as a deadline to see Robert Mueller's findings. Attorney General William Barr released a summary of Mueller's findings last week, clearing the president of any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. But that's doing little to convince House Democrats, and they want to see the details of the full investigation.
We're already hearing that the president may want to claim executive privilege on some of this, but the fact is he has no right to claim executive privilege on any evidence of wrongdoing.
Our George Thomas is following this story for us today and joins us now. So how is the Attorney General responding to the threat of the subpoena?
Well, Attorney General William Barr is insisting the committee and the public will only see a redacted version of the report before the middle of April. So what are we not going to see in this report? Barr says any material subject to grand jury secrecy laws will be redacted. So too will any sensitive and classified information. Also, any details about ongoing investigations will not be included in the report.
How is the White House responding to this now?
Well, acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney says that it is well within Barr's right to release whatever information he deems necessary from the Mueller's findings. Here's Mr. Mulvaney from ABC's This Week.
So if Mr. Barr wants to show it to Congress first, he's going to do that. If he's going to redact part of it, he's going to do that. If he's not, he's going to do that. This is how the system is supposed to work, and we're very happy to let the system play out the way the law intended.
Meanwhile, famed lawyer and author Alan Dershowitz says while he understands why lawmakers and the public want to read Mueller's report, he says there's no legal basis to demand the full redacted release of the investigation, especially, he says, if it contains information critical to people who are not indicted in the probe.
All right. Now, House Democrats have other investigations going on beside demanding on the full Mueller report, correct?
They sure do. In fact, they have opened a wide range of investigations into Trump's business dealings before winning the White House, his foreign financial assets, questions of whether he obstructed justice, and other aspects of his presidency. All these complaints, by the way, prompted this tweet from the president on Monday. He said, no matter what information is given to the crazed Democrats from the no collusion Mueller report, it will never be good enough. Behind closed doors, the Dems are laughing.
All right, George Thomas, thank you so much for following the story for us today. Much
You're most
appreciated.
welcome. Sure.
Chicago will have its first black woman as mayor after voters choose between two mayoral candidates. Former federal prosecutor Lori Lightfoot and Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle are running to succeed Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who did not seek re-election. Lightfoot has never held elected office, but Preckwinkle has served 19 years on the city council before becoming the Cook County Board President. Operation Blessing is at work in Nebraska, helping residents affected by widespread flooding that has hit the Midwest over the past month. The damage is so extensive, surging water levels have left a large area without any way to protect against future floods. Volunteers are working to remove debris and sheetrock from homes that have water damage. Jamie Brush says she is glad to have organizations like Operation Blessing to help her elderly parents.
My dad is 62 years old and my mom is almost 60 and she's not healthy, so she's unable to really help him. And so my siblings and I were really pushing for my parents to ask for volunteer help, and so they finally did, and now we have a big group of people here helping them, which is amazing.
New Zealand lawmakers have voted overwhelmingly in favor of new gun control measures during the first stage of a bill they hope to rush into law by the end of next week. Now, the bill would ban the types of weapons a gunman used to kill 50 people at 2 mosques last month. The vote is the first of 3 that lawmakers must pass before the bill becomes law. Only one conservative lawmaker, David Seymour, voted against it. He says it was too rushed. House Minority Whip Steve Scalise introduces a petition today forcing a vote on the Born Alive Survivors Protection Act to help save babies born alive after botched abortions. Democrats have blocked a vote on the bill 17 times. Meanwhile, the new pro-life movie, Unplanned, as we've reported, finished number 4 at the box office on its opening weekend, despite censorship before and after its opening. Now, it tells the story of former abortion clinic director Abby Johnson and uncovers shocking truths about America's abortion industry. It brought in $6 million and took 5th place at the box office in opening weekend. I spoke with Dan Gaynor of the Media Research Center about this trend on Twitter, and some would say overall with digital media giants. Dan, this is just one of the most recent examples of censorship bias on Twitter. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Twitter is consistently the worst of all the social media outlets. There's no pretense. I mean, this is not the treatment that liberals receive. Planned Parenthood or abortion movies don't get shut down. Their accounts don't get shut down on their opening weekend. You don't have people who try to follow the account and it automatically unfollows you. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge uproar on Twitter, and Twitter's response is always the muted, oh yeah, okay, and they move on. Imagine the media outrage if this happened to some sort of left-wing account. It's simply the way it is. Twitter is in no way, shape, or form a neutral platform to conservatives.
In light of what we're seeing here, does the company need to reevaluate its policy?
Well, I mean, the company needs to, but it won't. So then the question is, what can happen? I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one even on TV. But certainly, if I were the Unplanned movie, people involved in that, I'd be talking to lawyers. I'd be talking to Congress. The Free Speech Alliance that the Media Research Center heads up has urged the new Attorney General to get involved in looking into these companies and seeing the biases against conservatives. And I certainly think this is one of the cases where they need to look at it and say, this is the way things are, and they're only getting worse, it seems.
Turning now real quick, we are seeing that Google is coming under fire in Brazil for trying to manipulate the research on the opposition leader, Jair Bolsonaro. What do you make of this?
Well, all of these companies are running into global problems. And to some extent, I feel sympathetic toward them because every country has different rules, different language. When you're a global platform, it's a major requirement. I saw for Facebook, it's something like 100 different languages that Facebook has to handle across the globe. That's a lot. Inevitably, you're going to run into content problems. And we saw this weekend where Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook is calling for global regulation of content. We're heading down to very scary territory here. And the more countries get involved in this, the more these companies are looking for a one-size-fits-all solution. And I'm not convinced that there needs to be or ever could be that would work.
So looking back over the course of recent years, do you think that media bias is getting worse?
Well, I think the best and worst thing about social media is that social media made media bias overt. Gone are the days where you could do an analysis and reporters would be surprised that someone was looking at their content and writing it up. Now, they all have their own platforms. They all are on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or wherever. And it's almost encouraged them to bring out their biases. And since reporters and editors and producers are overwhelmingly liberal, vote overwhelmingly Democratic, it's really proven to be a boon for people who do what we do. But at the same time, it's very divisive for the country.
All right, Dan Gaynor with Media Research Center. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Coming up, ever wonder why you can't find where you put your keys or suddenly forget why you walked into a room in the first place? We're going to tell you why and how you can turn all that around when we come back. Stay with us.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphan's Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Welcome back. Here's a health shocker. Women are far more likely than men to suffer from a whole host of mental health issues. Our health reporter Lori Johnson recently interviewed women's health expert Dr. Sarah Gottfried, who says the good news is there are lots of ways to turn all of that around.
You recently just wrote this wonderful new book called The Brain Body Diet, which talks specifically about the woman's brain. And believe it or not, folks, women's brains and men's brains are different. We're not saying whose is better, but they are definitely different. In fact, if you have just the brain scans, 8 out of 10 times you can see what the gender of the person is just by looking at their brain scan. So how are men and women's brains different?
Well, they're different in a few ways. There's a structural difference, there's a molecular difference, and then there's a functional difference. And these differences add up to some of the changes that we see between men and women in their risk of disease. So women have double the risk of depression. We have double the risk of insomnia. We have double the risk of Alzheimer's disease, higher rates of autoimmunity, higher rates of anxiety. But let's go back to how these differences are manifest. And I like that you said, we're not going to say one is better.
Although we know, wink, wink.
So we know that they're different. And the reason why I care about this difference is because when you understand the difference, it helps the women who suffer more so that we can figure out how to solve it. So one of the big differences is structurally. Women have a bigger hippocampus. So the hippocampus is where you do emotional regulation and also memory consolidation. It's where memories are formed. So there's a big difference between men and women, but that also means since women have a bigger hippocampus, we're more vulnerable to toxins, to eating too much sugar, to too much stress. Men have a bigger amygdala. That's the part of the brain that looks for threat in the environment.
The impulsivity.
Impulsivity, exactly. So there's those differences. Probably the biggest difference is hormones. So sex hormones are different. Women have more estrogen, we have more progesterone, we have less testosterone compared to men. And that's why men do so much better with weight loss than women do.
Frustrating.
And then there's brain chemistry differences. So these are called neurotransmitters. Those relate again to the hormones, because hormones can change. You know, for instance, estrogen can change your oxytocin level. That's one of the reasons why women do better with oxytocin. If you hug a man, you have to hug them 3 times as long to get the same bump in oxytocin. So you have to remember that with the guys that you're hugging. And then there's functional difference. So functional differences are crucial too, because women tend to, we tend to multitask better. We tend to, we're more vulnerable to stress. And this is a big issue because I feel like, sometimes we talk about stress and people's eyes glaze over. And I just think it's essential that you have a strategy for how to rise above the stress.
And you talk about things like Alzheimer's, depression, stress, anger. These are all things that I see in so many women in my life, so many women I love who are miserable, women who struggle with being overweight, and all of these things, and people who are just overwhelmed and literally feel that they can't handle their lives. And it's heartbreaking, really, that this is going on. And what I love about your book is that you offer practical tips to correct that. This is not something that's just happening to women on an individual basis. This is common with all women, especially women who are eating a lot of the processed foods and the sugars and the terrible diet, the sad diet, standard American diet. Talk about how diet influences the way we think and even our mood.
Well, this is a crucial piece because, an important part of the brain-body connection is how the gut is talking to the brain. So this is known as the gut-brain axis. The food is the most important driver of your gut health. So if we look at, for instance, the microbiome, this is the set of microbes that you have in your gut and their DNA. The most important influence on your gut is food. Number 2 is stress, but let's stick with the food. So you want to feed the good bugs. You do that by eating prebiotics, by eating certain vegetables, things like artichokes, Jerusalem artichokes, onions, garlic. Those things feed the good bacteria. You want to be eating about 1 pound of vegetables per day. That's essential to get the fiber that you need to stabilize your blood sugar, which helps with all of these things that we talk about. So with blood sugar, if you have a problem with blood sugar, and you may not even know, you may have prediabetes or slightly rising blood sugar, that leads to cognitive decline, where you walk into a room and you can't remember why. It leads to brain fog, leads to that sense of overwhelm and anxiety.
Now you can watch the rest of Lori's interview, including why spending time with girlfriends is one of the many ways to reduce stress. That is tonight on Healthy Living on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 9:30 Eastern. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. Adulthood, get a little help. See what they're learning in something called adulting school.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphan's Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
For most people, becoming an adult starts with moving out of your parents' home and learning to manage life on your own. The millennial generation, however, seems to have a harder time jumping that hurdle. As reporter Caitlin Burke now shows us, there are classes to help them learn.
Hey, happy birthday! Grandma gives you $150. Congratulations! Where do you spend it? Or do you?
Welcome to Adulting School. It's judgment-free, practical, and proving to be invaluable to a generation eager to learn.
You can go to your sink, and a lot of people have a plunger hanging around. Okay,
Do you know that you could plunge a sink?
So I did not.
Some of the classes are lighthearted. The how-tos include unclogging a sink, folding fitted sheets, patching a wall. Others focus on more essential skills.
We are going to go through and talk about just a basic way to structure how you spend your money, where you put it.
Launching into adulthood can be tricky, and millennials, maybe more than any generation before them, have been especially vocal about feeling ill-equipped to hold the title of adult.
Rebecca, at what point did you feel like an adult?
I haven't yet.
I think I started to feel like an adult when I got my first apartment, but I'm not even 30 yet, and I'm still of the opinion that being an adult has too many negative things, so I just want to stay a kid forever.
The term adulting started out as a joke, millennials using it to describe their efforts to engage in adult behavior. Then, in 2016, the growth in online use led Merriam-Webster to add adulting to its words we're watching list.
Adulting. To do grown-up things, such as paying taxes, wearing pants all the time, buying your own toilet paper. You want to nap all the time, but your boss won't let you.
The millennial generation comes by their bumpy transition into adulthood honestly, having never learned many of the skills that would allow them to proceed with confidence.
It became clear that we wanted our kids, our parents wanted their kids to have a college education, so they started activity after sport, after extracurricular, and so they're not sitting down together to have a dinner. They're going, okay, grab a sandwich, we gotta get to soccer. Okay, I gotta get your sister over to lacrosse, and then you gotta go to math club, and and then it's like, we're not lifting the hood of the car.
There's a lot of emphasis placed in schools on getting us to graduate, getting good academic achievements, and not so much on the life skills that we need once we leave the educational system, when we're off on our own, and how can we really be independent or interdependent in the world?
I don't think it is that obvious what they really need to do. There is so much information right now that has never been available before. It's social media, it's Instagram, it's Snapchat. There is always something coming at people right now. And so that's that sense of overwhelm that you get. So when you see that hashtag adulting, it's people struggling or it's celebrating. So it's not clear to them.
Rachel Flahinger and co-founder Rachel Weinstein started Adulting School simply because of the need.
It flushes out all of the noise. And it's like, here's the information. And also here we care about you doing it. We're not just, oh, you're a millennial, you don't know, you're so spoiled. Well, nobody taught you. So here we are.
Originally, Flahinger and Weinstein brought in instructors and hosted pop-up workshops here in Portland. But now the demand is so great that they've gone digital. Adulting School now offers classes online so that students across the country can participate.
The goal for Adulting School is really to help people, is to fill in that gap that is what was missed, so that people can really feel like they have a base under them to be successful. These are our future adults. These are our future politicians. These are our future. And so we want them to feel and be successful.
A necessary gift to a generation navigating a rapidly changing world. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Portland, Maine.
Still ahead, see how this long-standing children's television show is honoring individuals with autism. Stay with us.
Oh, we could all dance with Rose, she's so furry. Read a book together, or anything that makes you smile.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to his children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphan's Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Sesame Street has introduced a new character in honor of Autism Awareness Month. Julia is the Muppet with autism, and she appears on the show. It made her debut in 2017, but the program expanded her role and introduced her family to fans to kick off Autism Awareness Month in April. The Sesame Workshop also released new videos and materials to help families of children with autism. Autism right now affects about 1 in 59 children in the United States and, of course, their families. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable, and I leave you with this message to post, tag, tweet, and to share with others. The love of God chased you all the way to death, hell, and the grave, and that love got up and is seated at the right hand of God, restoring your relationship to your Heavenly Father. Now, that is indeed love, and there is no love greater. With that word, make this a terrific Tuesday. That will do it for this first edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can always get more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs throughout the day on the CBN News channel. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.